It feels like the stakes aren't as high as they could be because everything seems to work out pretty easily for these characters. It's Kristen, and today we are talking about the first season of Netflix's new series, Cursed. Led by Netflix regular Katherine Langford, Cursed is based on the illustrated novel by Frank Miller and Tom Wheeler. The story is a reimagining of the Arthurian legend following Nimue, a young woman with a mysterious power who is destined to become the Lady of the Lake as she joins forces with Arthur to save her people. Consider subscribing if you like my videos, and drop down in the comments and let me know your thoughts on Cursed. Did you love it? Did you hate it? I cannot wait to hear what you guys think. Now, as for what I think, on paper, Cursed sounds like a brilliant story, allowing us to focus on the Lady of the Lake, who plays a crucial role in the stories around King Arthur. And while there are a lot of different takes on those stories, I would say that Cursed is not your typical King Arthur story. It takes a lot of liberties, changing up timelines, changing up relationships between characters, and while a lot of them were really interesting choices, I don't think they all fully translated on screen. It just felt like they're trying to fit so many different storylines into this season, when it would have been more effective to cut the season down and maybe push some of those storylines into a potential season 2. Because of that, the show does have a hard time finding its footing, and it feels really long and dragged out. And honestly, I had a hard time just getting through the first episode alone. This is disappointing because I will admit that as the season goes on, it does get better, especially when they start to reveal the big secrets around some of our major players. But it doesn't necessarily feel like it's worth it to keep watching to even get to those moments. Additionally, it feels like the stakes aren't as high as they could be because everything seems to work out pretty easily for these characters. They come across people or magical items that they're looking for without much effort, and they find allies everywhere. We're also following a story about a woman who becomes a beacon of hope, who becomes a symbol of rebellion, but she doesn't quite have the skills. Her swordsmanship specifically seems really weak, and you can just tell that Katherine Langford is not trained in this, and you have to really suspend disbelief to be like, okay, this person is besting all these bad guys with her sword work, when it's just clear that that's not something that is one of her skills or that she's trained in as an actress. I think it would have made more of an impact to have someone who was actually skilled in sword fighting playing this role, or have a stunt double do more of those fighting moments because, you know, it wasn't very believable. I was also particularly disappointed by both the production quality and the script. So many of the scenes look so fake, the CGI looks off, it looks like they're in a green screen or on a soundstage and they just didn't even put the effort into making it look more realistic. This was something that was consistent throughout the entire season, but a few moments that I thought it was really evident in were when Nimue is going up against the wolves, or in the finale when Merlin is doing magic. Those lightning bolts looked pretty terrible. This show is set in a very specific time period. This is the medieval times, and I think that this is a show that you really need to go big or go home with when it comes to the production design and the locations. I also wasn't a big fan of the transitional design choices that they made that popped up on screen. It looked like they were trying to make a connection between the show and the book with the illustrations, but I think that it didn't fully translate. There were moments where, you know, Nimue is maybe hacking at someone with a sword and you see the blood come up on screen instead of in the actual scene, and it just looked a little bit weird to me. And when it comes to the script, it felt like they weren't sure if they wanted to do like a fantasy action adventure or a teen romance. Instead, we got this tonally confusing mishmash of a show. Something else that kind of bothered me about the show is that it begins and ends with the same scene, which is Nimue underwater, she's been hit by arrows, she's bleeding. So that's something that's basically revealed the minute the show starts, and we spend the whole season getting to that moment, and then nothing happens after that. I was hoping to see something really big happen that was going to set up an epic season 2. Well, there are still a lot of questions. I just don't think that this finale shook me like I was hoping it would. I also feel like they don't truly explore what it means for Nimue to be cursed, so to speak. They open up this story of her being attacked by a demon as a child, but then they don't make it clear if this is what elevated her powers or if it comes from her parentage. And then they also sort of kind of drop it a little bit and they focus more on this powerful sword than what Nimue already has inside of her. I think addressing that, or even just giving us more hints of that, would have made the story a lot more compelling. And also just in general, I wish that they had included even more magic in this series. Now, I will say a few of the things that I did enjoy about this series were those twists on who these characters really are, like the Weeping Monk, and some of the more diverse casting choices like Arthur and Morgana. But when it comes down to it, I struggled to get through Cursed, and I was disappointed in the overall direction of the series. It felt like too much happened, but also not enough happened in the story at the same time. I just think Cursed could have benefited from focusing the story a bit more and also putting a lot more work into the production quality. If you like this one, you can check out more of my Netflix reviews right over here, and I will catch you in my next video. See ya!